Good Tuesday to you, and welcome to Ag AM in Kansas. Stay tuned for some great features today.
Today, Brian Holman is at Premier Farm and Home talking with Chad about options to control rabbits in your home gardens. Next, Eric Atkinson discusses how devastating alfalfa weevil infestations can be. Then Cindy Campbell shares how to best use dollar beef indexes, whose values represent performance and grade in a way everyone can appreciate. And finally, on our Healthy Yard segment, learn how to make the best plant selection for your home garden.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome to the show. We're out at Premier Farm and Home, and we're joined by Chad. It's good to see you, Chad.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Hey, we've gotten to this time of the year. We're probably going to started putting some seedlings and some other stuff into the ground in our gardens and things like that. And it seems like we've got an explosion of rabbits.
We do.
Especially in neighborhoods. How are we going to keep those rabbits out of our garden, besides having Elmer Fudd come?
Yeah, we could go after those wascally wabbits a little bit, you know, but what I'm looking for, there's probably three main ways that you can go about. There's the trapping solution. There's one way that you can do it. You're just luring them into a thing. You're either going to physically remove them from the area or whatever you need to do at that point. One other way is there are some repellents, kind of mixed reviews on whether or not they work or not, or that sort of thing. Then there's also physical barriers that you can put up to kind of prevent that. So it just kind of depends on what the situation is that you've got.
What is your, I guess, recommendation as far as maintaining those?
Probably the best thing to do when you're dealing with rabbits in town, I think, is to put up a real basic physical barrier. You can use something in the neighborhood of poultry netting. It doesn't have to be very high, and you don't even have to put a gate on it, Brian. You can actually just make it in kind of a perimeter around the garden where the two overlap, so you have kind of a gap that you can walk through and pull your stuff through, short enough that you can drag your hoses over, whatever you need. And those rabbits just kind of run into it, and they can't really find a way in. They just keep going in circles around it, even though that gap's there. And if they happen to get in, they ain't coming out, so you may be able to catch them that way too. So to me, basic physical perimeter is probably the easiest thing to do when you're dealing with rabbits.
I mean, they don't jump very high.
No.
So, I mean, if we had something 12 to 18 inches off the ground.
18 inches would be great. You know, poultry netting probably works the best with just simple electric fence posts or any kind of temporary step-in post. Is probably the easiest deterrent that you can do that. There are some fancier stuff out there I've seen as well. There are some motion sensor sprinklers. That was probably the coolest thing I've seen in the last few years is they set out in the yard, and then when there's any kind of motion, they just kick on and shoot whatever's there, and then the rabbits run away, and plus you watered your garden all at the same time. So there are some of those devices out, kind of mixed reviews on that, whether the sensor's working or, you know, grandma might come over and get sprinkled by it when she's not paying attention. But that's kind of some of the basic things that are out there.
We don't only have to worry about rabbits, we also have to worry about deer also.
Yeah, now deer, your little 2-foot fence, that's kind of out the window, Brian. That won't work for them. With deer, it almost has to be a larger fence, or it has to be a, something to physically scare them out of there, whether that's lights coming on, but as we notice, more and more of those deer just fear us less and less, especially in town. They just don't seem to care whether we're there or not. So with deer, it can be more complicated. Probably the biggest problem with deer, rather in the garden, it's probably actually young trees. And I was talking to a nurseryman the other day, and he said they actually use fabric softener or dryer sheets. And they'll rub it down there, and so when those bucks are in rut and they're coming to scrape up the trees, they won't take out the little sapling because their scent won't be put on it because you put fabric softener on it. Or, dryer sheets. So they just rub the base of those young trees with dryer sheets, and that's probably the cheapest, inexpensive way other than buying some retail stuff to go about it.
What about urine? I mean, is that another way to
They do use that. They'll use coyote urine as kind of a deterrent, and that works for the rabbits as well, so kind of a dual purpose there, other than the fact you have to deal with the coyote urine. There is a little smell associated to that, and the unpleasantness of just handling it. It can be in good supply, can be in short supply. It's kind of hard, and it's of course a perishable product, so that is a little bit tricky, but it would work for sure.
Don't keep it in your icebox.
Don't keep it in the icebox.
Exactly. All right, well, we want to remind everybody, heycal.com for
Yep.
any other ideas that you guys may think of, or any
Sure.
questions you have for Chad, please go to heycal.com, or you can just come out and see him out here at Premier Farm and Homes.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
If crabgrass was a problem in your lawn last year, and it is beginning to come up now, it's not too late to kill the crabgrass that's up and prevent any new crabgrass or weeds emerging. Let Jackson show you how to use the Do-It-All product from Fertilome. Weed Out Lawn Fertilizer plus Crabgrass Preventer, only from Fertilome.
One bag of this great product covers 10,000 square feet and will help keep crabgrass under control until September this year.
Roy Fry Western Lifestyles brings the cowboy or cowgirl out in all of us. With a huge selection of must-have items, it doesn't matter if you're shopping for your horse, picking up some Western accessories to add that rustic charm to your home, or simply treating yourself. The knowledge and expertise to dress you your Western best is right here at Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, Highway 24 and Kansas Avenue in Topeka.
This segment brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
This spring so far, with its up and down weather, has thrown many aspects of crop production off kilter. That includes alfalfa stands, which, much as the case with wheat, took a hit from those 3 separate hard freezes in April. Insect activity in those fields was hampered likewise, but the alfalfa weevil has hung tough in these conditions, according to K-State crop entomologist Jeff Whitworth.
We're out in an alfalfa field today because alfalfa is under attack with the alfalfa weevil, as it is every year. The alfalfa weevil, and that attacks alfalfa primarily anywhere from late February till mid-May, and it is primarily responsible, or can be primarily responsible, for donating the first cutting to the alfalfa weevil if something is not done to manage it, control it, or protect those plants. The alfalfa weevil in the last 2 to 3 years the infestations have been really out of control until some sort of management practice is put in play. We've had last year in 2012, we had anywhere from 10 to 12 larvae per stem. And when you have infestations at that level, it takes 1 to 2 days to completely eat the stem to the ground. In 2012, the infestation was so bad that if the growers or the consultants or the commercial applicators were 3 days late, they lost their crop. They donated that to the alfalfa weevil. I've never seen alfalfa weevil infestations at the level they were in 2012. So we were concerned about 2013. 2013 has been a completely different year weather-wise, and as everybody knows, weather 100% controls the development of insects. And the alfalfa weevil is no exception to that. 2012, we found the first weevils the 5th of March, 2013. It was the 26th of March, so you can see just due to the weather, we were 3 weeks behind. The alfalfa correspondingly has been about 3 weeks behind. 2012, the first week of April, most of the alfalfa in central Kansas at least had already been cut for the first time. 2013, we're probably still 2 to 3 weeks away from that, and it's almost the 1st of May, so you can see we're approximately 3 weeks behind. Behind me you see Miss Holly Davis. She's a PhD candidate and a research associate for the Department of Entomology. She's now, with the sweep net, actually sampling alfalfa weevils. There's 2 different methods we use to sample alfalfa. First is the sweep net. We do this to determine if they are there. Once we determine they're there, then we use a second method, which is a bucket method. Holly is now doing sweep sampling. what you do is count the number of sweeps, bring that back, put the alfalfa in a bucket or a Ziploc bag so that you can count them at a later point in time and determine how many are in the area that you've sampled with your sweep net. Most fields have been treated one time at least. What we're worried about is, are we going to need to treat again? Because of the roller coaster weather situations we've had where it's been 60 to 70 degrees for 2 to 3 days, that allows weevils to develop. Then it goes down below freezing. That stops their development as it does the plant. Because alfalfa is an early season crop, we have a problem deciding whether it is actually alfalfa weevil damage or damage caused by frost or freeze or the weather. So here we have really good examples of both. What you see here is the skeletonization of this leaf. That's caused by an alfalfa weevil larvae feeding on it. But down here you see that it's yellow, white, whatever color you want to call it. That's simply caused by the frost or the freeze. So a lot of times guys are driving by their field, consultants or growers, and they look out in the field and it has a silvery cast. That's very indicative of alfalfa weevils, but it can also be indicative of frost or freeze damage. This year it's both. You can see the feeding on this leaf, I hope. The little pinprick holes on the leaf, that's caused by the alfalfa weevil. You can also see the browning or the yellowing of the leaf. That's caused by the cold temperatures. So it's very important to get out after a cold spell, get out and determine whether it's actually the yellowing or the silvering is caused by alfalfa weevils or if it's caused by the weather. If it's caused by the weather, there's nothing you can do about it. If it's caused by alfalfa weevils, you need to get out and go through the sampling procedures to decide whether you needed to treat or not. So it's been real hectic as an alfalfa producer or a consultant trying to decide whether we need to put out a second or a third application of an insecticide to control the alfalfa weevils. 48 degrees Fahrenheit is the cutoff for alfalfa weevil development. It doesn't kill them. That just means the alfalfa weevil doesn't develop if it's below 48 degrees. So you can see it's been kind of a struggle trying to predict their development. Right now, the last of April, we're finding a real dichotomy in the larval situation in the alfalfa weevil. We find large larvae in fields that have been sprayed, and we find very tiny small larvae that obviously have just hatched out. And I think what that means is the large larvae were someplace where it was protected, down in the leaf litter when the field was sprayed, or the frost or the freeze came along because they somehow perceive when adverse conditions are coming, they crawl down the plant and they get into some protected spot. So that protects them from the cold weather, but it also protects them from an insecticide application. Alfalfa weevils are, every year, they're a real struggle to try and manage. They don't last that long. The season starts just as soon as the alfalfa breaks dormancy. That's when the alfalfa weevil breaks dormancy. They start feeding voraciously. There's a lot of them, and they can do a real number on alfalfa if they're not treated. And so can the weather, because most insecticides don't work very well below 50 degrees. So alfalfa weevils, not only do you have to consider the insecticide and the efficacy of the insecticide, you also have to consider the weather. So you need to look ahead 3 to 4 days, see what the weather's going to do. If you're going to get some cold moisture events in the next 3 or 4 days, I probably would not spray because the weevils won't be that active. The insecticide, all these insecticides are contact insecticides. The insecticides will not contact the weevils when they're not active. They'll be protected someplace. So you may kill a few, but for the most part, you're not going to get good efficacy unless you have like a window of 3 or 4 days without a moisture event where the temperatures stay at least above 50 degrees during the day. 60 to 70 is even better. That gets the weevils active. That makes it helps ensure that the weevils are going to come in contact with the insecticide, and that will give you your best efficacy for that insecticide that you choose. Most of the insecticides that we test, and as you can see here in the background, we have a lot of flags. These are our chemical efficacy tests, trials, where we test a lot of different products for the different companies. For the growers of the state, we publish that information online on the entomology website, the efficacy trials every year, so that you can see how the various insecticides are performing in our trials.
That's crop entomologist Jeff Whitworth of K-State Research and Extension. This is Ag AM in Kansas.
Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by K-State Research and Extension. Knowledge for life.
In a feedlot situation, we use Multimin on arrival basis. Maybe if they came in a little lighter weight, 550, 600 pounds. We use Multimin in high-stress cattle, high-risk cattle. We're looking for a better response to our vaccine. Or some of the cattle that we're looking for when we use Multimin, they come in, maybe they look a little mineral deficient. They come from parts of the country that are lower in certain mineral. So we use it on those cattle, tends to make a big difference.
Get ready for the Kicker Country Stampede presented by Verizon Wireless, starring Jason Aldean, Trace Atkins. 4 days of camping and country music at Country Stampede, Little Big Town. The Pistolantes featuring Ashley Monroe, Miranda Lambert, and Angelina Presley. Country Stampede. Take advantage of our current pricing. Advanced pricing for a 4-day ticket is $135. Prices go up June 26. More info at countrystampede.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Purple Wave is a proud supporter of the Kansas FFA through the Bid for Blue program. Purple Wave donates a portion of the proceeds earned on certain ag assets to the Kansas FFA. Winning bidders can designate a Kansas chapter to receive the donation. To date, Purple Wave is proud to have donated over $10,000. Visit purplewave.com to learn more and to place bids on Bid for Blue assets. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road.
To make more money, try selecting for profit. That's what dollar value indexes help cattle producers do.
Selection indexes are really a great tool that we have to practice multiple trait selection directly for profit, because these indexes are in dollar values, so dollars saved or dollars earned.
Ranchers who want to produce standouts in the feedlot and on the rail often turn to the American Angus Association's Dollar Beef Index. A recent summary shows dramatic differences in progeny over the last 15 years in those sired by bulls in the top 10% compared to the bottom 10th for dollar beef. Those from the top group had 5 times the number of prime carcasses and a 67-pound weight advantage. Indexes help simplify selection, but Rolf offers this tip.
Generally speaking, with selection indexes, we want to use one index at a time and minimize our use of additional EPDs or indexes, because we want to make sure that we don't overemphasize selection on a trait. So any trait that's within the index, we generally don't want to practice additional selection on that trait because it will be overemphasized. The exception to those kinds of rules are for traits that are limiting in the environment, whether it's milk production or mature size or mature weight, where we might want to place limits on those traits, and then finish our selection with selecting the bulls with the highest index values.
To keep replacement heifers, a producer should include maternal traits, such as those represented in the Dollar Weaning Index. I'm Cindy Campbell.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet. Supply.
Golf Week calls it the best course you can play in Kansas. But once you play, you'll want to stay. Go for it. Firekeeper Golf Course at Prairie Band Casino and Resort is just north of Topeka off Highway 75. Our stay and play package is worth the trip. Luxury hotel room, green fees, and golf cart for two, starting at just $169.
Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Go for it.
This is the fast track to more jobs and America's energy independence. Advanced performance is here now. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need.
Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by Premier Farm and Home. Stop by or visit us at haycow.com.
When you go to your garden center, you'll probably notice that there's different options as far as sizes of plants, the sizes of the containers. And you have to decide, is it worth the money to select the larger plant? Some people like to have the instant gratification of having instant tomatoes, or in the case of this plant, automatically having a pepper plant. But is that really the best choice? And is it the best use of your money? This 4-pack of peppers cost the same as this one single plant. And so while this one does have a pepper, he's actually expended so much energy producing that one pepper, whereas these smaller plants will be able to grow a bigger plant in that same amount of time. In the case of the tomatoes, again, here's a little 4-pack of tomatoes. They're very nice, compact, small tomatoes. And then here we have a 2.5 quart container. This pot actually costs 4 times as much as this 4-pack did, but in the end, I will be able to produce 4 times as many tomatoes in total as I will from this one single plant. So as far as my budget is concerned, it's a much better return on my investment to spend less money, buy the smaller plants. I have another pack of tomatoes. And you'll notice these are really long and lanky and very spindly. These tend to whip around a lot in the wind. There's a lot of space in the inner node. That shows that they really grew quickly, maybe under lower light, didn't have as good a nutrition. So I'm willing to bet that these small tomatoes that are more compact are going to produce a bigger, bushier, healthier plant for me than those that are actually taller but more lanky.
For more information, visit your local extension office or visit our website at kansasgreenyards.org.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
We'll have lots more for you tomorrow here on Ag AM in Kansas. We're here every weekday, same time, same station. Or look for us on the web at agaminkansas.com. Eric Atkinson here from K-State Research and Extension.